by 400 people a day. Under the last 5 years of the last government, unemployment went up by 600 people a day. So if Ed Miliband repeated the economic mistakes of the last Labour government that he was part of, he risks 1 million more people joining the dole queues. So this is the clear and major choice of this election. When it comes to jobs, do we keep on creating record numbers of jobs, or do we go back to the job losses, the redundancy notices, and the misery of mass unemployment? I really believe we're on the cusp of something special in our country. Full employment, a job for everyone who wants one. If we stick to the plan, we can reach it. And that's why this election matters so much. It's about you. It's about your job. It's about the future of your family. That's why we've got to keep on saying it. We've come this far. Let us see it through to even brighter days ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much. We've got some time for questions from people here and also the broadcasters who are travelling with me. I'm sure they'll want a question as well. So, question here, sir.
Good morning, Prime Minister, and just want to say thank you for taking the time to come and visit us here at Fujitsu. So at Fujitsu, we have a vision of a human-centric intelligent society with 50 billion devices connected in what's known as the Internet of Things. Recently, the UK Government Chief Scientific Advisor published a report on the Internet of Things and making the best of the second digital revolution, with ambitions of making the UK a world leader in this space. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about how you see the importance of technology to Britain's future.
Well, I think the Internet of Things is an extremely exciting concept. I think it takes a moment or two for people to fully understand what this means. We've all got our laptops or mobile phones. We know that devices in our homes have got computer chips in them, and same with our cars. But the concept of the Internet of Things, where we link all these things up to make life easier, better, simpler and cheaper, I think is something we haven't properly, fully explained to people. And I think maybe one of the easiest ways to think about it is the interactive energy grid that we want to build. So instead of just vast power stations, a big national grid and everyone taking energy off the grid, we have an intelligent system with smart meters in our homes, using only the electricity that we need, selling back to the grid what we generate from solar panels or other schemes. That will cut costs, it will cut carbon, it will make our country more competitive, and it helps families. So that's one example, but there are many in terms of how we can link up all the devices that we have. Devices that would include things like preventing floods in our towns and villages, because there'll be meters that measure water levels, that communicate directly to your personal devices so you know when there are dangerous water levels, and so on. There's so many examples, and that's why I asked the chief scientists to get together with all the chief scientists we've now got one in each department, and to use their collective brain power to think about how can Britain get the leading edge. Because of course you want great companies like Fujitsu, of course we need to train more apprentices, of course we've got to attract businesses to Britain, but government's a player in this. If we make sure we have transparency, if we make sure we buy wisely, if we make sure small businesses and inventors can get access to government, then actually we'll be a winner in this space. And I think it's one of the many industries where Britain's got a real chance of being a world beater. So with your help and another term, we can really make some progress. Let's have James Mates from ITV.
Prime Minister, if your message is as strong as you say it is, people may wonder why you ducked the opportunity last night to sell it to several million viewers and to have it scrutinised.
Well, last night's debate was a challenger's debate. It was an idea of the broadcasters to have a debate of the opposition parties, a debate to which Nick Clegg and I weren't invited. And I'm glad it went ahead. I caught a bit of it, and I tell you what I saw. I saw the leaders of the Red Party, the Green Party, the Purple Party, the Yellow Party from Scotland, the SNP, all saying different things, but all meaning the same thing, which is they want to scrap the plan and abandon the plan that has created 2 million jobs in our country, that is paying down the deficit, that's making Britain a success story. And they all, to one degree or another, think that the right answer is to install Ed Miliband in Downing Street, backed by the SNP, a combination to break up Britain and bankrupt Britain. And I think that would be disastrous for our country. And I think you saw on your television screens last night just a hint of the chaos you would get from that sort of coalition. And I think a very clear message will come over in the next few days that there's only one way to stop this coalition of chaos, this Ed Miliband backed by the SNP, and that is to have a Conservative majority government. You can't stop it by voting Lib Dem. They're in deep trouble. You can't stop it by voting UKIP. That will let in Labour members of Parliament. You can only stop it with a Conservative government sticking to the long-term economic plan that's turning this country around. Let's have Anushka from Sky.
Prime Minister, the Labour leader refreshed his challenge for a head-to-head debate last night. You'll be pleased to know the broadcasters will be very happy to put it on television. Is it time to take up the challenge?
Well, we've had 146 debates at Prime Minister's questions, and I think people have seen a lot of those to get the measure of us. But the key thing people saw last night is an exemplification of the facts at this election campaign. Fact one is that Labour are facing a wipeout in Scotland. Fact two is the Liberal Democrats all over the country are facing a wipeout. And what this means is that Labour cannot win a majority on its own. It can only get into Downing Street with the support of the SNP. What is it the SNP want? They want more taxes, they want more borrowing, they want more unlimited welfare, they want all of the things that got us into this economic mess in the first place, from which we are now recovering. Now, these facts lead to a simple conclusion. There is only one way to stop this Ed Miliband SNP government from taking place, and that is to have a Conservative majority government. We're only 23 seats short of that majority government, and that majority government can stick to the plan that's working. And that's not about facts and figures and statistics. That's about people getting a job. It's about people having more money at the end of the month. It's about people being able to buy a home of their own. It's about good school places for their children. That's what this election is about. And that's the way to avoid the calamity of Ed Miliband and the SNP running the government of our country. Gavin Hewitt at the BBC.
Prime Minister, you say we're living through a jobs miracle. Does it not then puzzle you why you're not further ahead in the polls and why you're not on target at how it currently stands to form a majority government?
Well, we've had a difficult time in our country recovering from the longest and deepest recession that any of us can remember. But what's happened over the last 5 years is now reflected in these remarkable figures. 2 million more people in work, a record number of people in work in our country. We need to combine that by continuing with the plan to cut people's taxes. I want to see people keep more of their own money to spend as they choose. Now, the other parties, reflected in that debate last night, they all seem to agree about one thing. There's one cut they want to make. Because they're going to put up taxes, they want to reach into your pay packet and cut your pay. That would be the consequences of the coalition of chaos that we saw on the television last night. And what a contrast. A coalition of chaos shouting at each other last night, agreeing that more taxes, more debt and more spending was the answer, with the figures today showing the long-term patient work of a government that's getting our country back to work. That's the contrast I see happening in our country today. Any more questions from members of staff or the audience? A gentleman at the back here.
Sorry, good morning. I wanted to build upon what you were saying earlier about the success of the economy. I wanted to understand how you can make that sustainable moving forward and how companies like Fujitsu can help you do that.
Well, the biggest thing you can do to help us is to go on offering these training opportunities and jobs, particularly to young people. The success of an economy is not determined by levers pulled in Whitehall or speeches made by politicians. The success of an economy is what businesses choose to do. Now, what we've done is we've kept business taxes low, we've made it easier to employ people, we've cut the national insurance on young people, we've got the money there to pay for the additional apprenticeships. But we need businesses to step forward, as Fujitsu are, and to help us to train 3 million apprentices in the next Parliament. We want to work with you on a new idea, which is to say there shouldn't be just this binary choice of going to university or doing an apprenticeship. We want to work with you on degree apprenticeships. So Fujitsu taking on young people aged 18 and saying, we'll help you through university, work for us during your vacations, and have a work placement here while you're at university. And so you get the best of the apprenticeship, the best of a degree, and at the end of those 3 or 4 years, you can decide whether you want to work with us and whether we want to take you on. Skills is going to be absolutely key to the long-term success of our economy. And so I think it's a real area where partnership between business and government is most needed. Can I thank you all very much for coming? Can I thank Fujitsu again for the incredible work you're doing training people in our country? Can I also implore you to work with us on the vital agenda of cybersecurity, which is going to be a major challenge for our country in the years ahead? And with that, thank you very much for the warm welcome to the West Midlands. Thank you very much indeed.